Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast, hosted by a combination of the Fantasy Football Universe and the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I am Aaron St. Denis. You can find me on Twitter at FFMadScientist. My guest today for Dynasty Risers and Fallers is Johnny Christofi. I got it right, I believe. Yep, I'm sitting there and in my head, you can see me. I'm terrible with last names. I don't know why. I just can't do it. I talked to you before the show asking you how to say it, and I'm still going. As it's coming out of my mouth, I'm going, there's a 50-50 chance I screw this name up. But anyways, I got it right. You can find him at Johnny freaking F1. How's it going?
Good, man. You got it right. Hit the nail on the head first try. Forget about it now. Johnny freaking Fantasy, Johnny Christofi. You can find me at Johnny freaking F1. I've been a member of the IDP Plus team now since November. Been doing Twitter since 2018, kind of going solo. IDP Plus gave me an opportunity to start writing, doing podcasts for them. I started this past November. I have a IDP Plus Trends show that comes out once a week. I do weekly waiver pickups on Twitter, sit starts, all of that. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, go ahead, do that right now. I'll give you some love back. Blessed to be here today, man.
I think I only started my Twitter at the beginning of 2022. I fucking hate Twitter. I just hate Twitter. I only got into it once I started taking the football thing a little more seriously and I started doing it full time. I had to get a Twitter, but I never had one. The only one I had Facebook for family, but I hate social media. It's the worst thing in the history of the world. It's just
I tell you what, though, man, how I started using Twitter was just because it's instantaneously. If you're setting your lineup and you don't know active or inactive, if you want to see the latest news, Twitter's great for that. Like I'll go into the game. Oh, this guy's not playing, right? Somebody has crazy stats on this guy. So I go to Twitter, search by latest, and I can see a lot of info. So it's good for that if you haven't used it for those listeners and viewers already.
I find the key is to just not interact. I'll post with stuff. I'll use the info. Like you said, I'll use it for sit starts, blah, 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 inactives or whatever. I'll promote myself all the time, but like anytime you get feedback, for the most part, I just don't even respond to anything. It's just, you'll post some, wonderfully thought out explanation of why this player's good. And you'll have some dude message back with, man, you're an idiot. It's like, I don't bother. I just don't respond to anyone except for the people I know. It's just not worth it, man. You'll spend your entire time on Twitter fighting with idiots and trolls. So let's get into it here. We've got the 2024 Dynasty Risers and Fallers. Your riser is Vegas running back Zamir White. Going into his third season, he has been RB 128, RB 56 last year. He had 104 carries, 451 yards, and a touchdown. 15 catches on 19 targets for 98 yards. He is RB 38 on both Keep Trade Cut and Fantasy Pros. Obviously, Fantasy Pros has him at 123, 20 spots higher than KTC 143. That's because it's one QB, and Fantasy Pros, all the experts just punt quarterbacks. So, high-end RB4 range here, and he is tier 5 in a tier 5. There he is. Tier 5 that goes from 31 to 41 overall on Fantasy Pros. Well, what do you see in Zamir White? Where what are your thoughts?
So first off, that range of 31 to 41, I think it's fine. I'm not going to argue that right now. And when I went through and found this one riser, this one faller, I was looking at your list. I'm later to join. I think I'm one of the last ones you'll have. So I really got I wanted to find guys who weren't on that list already. So kind of a trendsetter. So
hey, I'm happy you didn't pick a Packer. Everybody picks Packers. That's all it is. Everyone, half the guys on here are from Green Bay. I'm just like, wow. I do
like the Jaden Reed pick. Someone picked Jaden Reed, but he was taken. So I'm rolling with Zamir White. But with Zamir White, I think he has room to grow. Specifically looking at those last 3 games when he started for Jacobs, he had 59 carries in 3 games for 285 yards and a touchdown, 8 catches for 51 yards. He can do it both. Those 3 games, he had carries of 17, 22, 20. That's rare in the NFL. I mean, Josh Jacobs can do that. Zamir White is the backup, getting his first kind of real look, did that. So to me, Josh Jacobs is a free agent. There's a good chance he comes back. I know Telesco's high on him, probably talking a lot of, blowing smoke, saying he's going to come back. A good player, who wouldn't want him back? Now, there's a real chance that Josh Jacobs does not return, however. So to me, Zamir White's potential kind of resides with Josh Jacobs. But at the same time, if Jacobs even comes back, takes his job back, gets hurt, Zamir White has now shown that he's young, he's capable. I liked him. This is somebody who I actually traded for this year in sleeper early on. People probably saw the deal and thought I was crazy, but I actually like this guy coming out of college. He's a little bit older. He's 24, going to be 25 at some point next season in the season. So not the spring chicken, the youngest guy you're looking for, but did have decent draft capital, 4th rounder. I think that if he gets a chance in Vegas again, he'll excel. And I think if he plays out his contract and finds somewhere else to land, he's a name to keep in mind.
See, he was at one of the trio of running backs I was buying towards the end of last season. I had a lot of leagues where I was shipping off older players to teams who were really looking to, spare parts. I was shipping off spare parts to people who didn't value Zamir White, Tyjae Spears, and Chase Brown. I think all 3 had the shot. Like if you can pretty much look and take a shot on some of these guys. They're not all going to hit, but that's why I like to buy them at the end of last season, because we're getting to the point now where all 3 of them are getting really hyped up. White's still the least valued out of all of them, but there's no guarantee any of the 3 are going to be the starters. Like I get Josh Jacobs could be gone. Zamir White could be the number 1 back here, but it's the same we're seeing with Ty Chandler now in Minnesota. They could just as easily go draft someone, and all of a sudden your shares are useless. So that's why I like to buy these guys at the end of last season. If you wait, the closer we get to the draft, you're starting to pay a higher price. You're probably paying triple for Zamir White, what you were paying 3 months ago, in week 18 or whatever. And I just, when I'm getting him almost free, like I think I got him a couple times for a 3rd round pick. When I'm getting him at that price, I don't care. If Josh Jacobs comes back, if they draft someone, oh, well, I burned a 3rd round pick. So I love it. And I think he's a riser. It's like I said, as well as Chandler, Spears, Chase Brown. But my thing is, I like these risers. Be cognizant of cost. Buy them while they're still lower, because the cost is only going to go up. We're really starting to see it with Zamir White. I know he's still down as an RB4, but it's going to keep going up because you're hearing all the hype. When they get to free agency, the second Josh Jacobs goes out the door, his cost is going to skyrocket. So you might want to get Zamir White now before he goes up. We've already seen it with where's Spears? Spears is already up to RB21. We don't even know Derrick Henry's gone. Chase Brown is up just under Zamir White. So these guys are already starting to rise, but it's not going to take much for their cost to jump. So they are a riser. I think you need to get them now before they have fully risen. And like I said, Tyjae Spears is one where it might be too late already. At RB21 price, you can't really afford for him to fail. You have to pay as if he's actually an RB2. I like these free shots, like I said, with Zamir White, Chase Brown, where, and even what's Ty Chandler? Ty Chandler's got to be way up there now. He's not. He's still in I can't even find him on here, but anyways,
wasn't reflected yet.
What's that?
It probably hasn't updated since the news yesterday.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like that. I can't even find him on here. Oh, you're right. He's way down in the 60s. There's no way. I don't know. I'm surprised he was even that low, but my point is I agree with your riser. It's just kind of buy now while the cost is minimal. And then, I'm sure they say, oh, why buy now? Lots of things can happen. Josh Jacobs can come back. They can draft someone. He could not be the guy. Sure. But if you do it now and he's a bust, you burn a minimal pick. You wait till Josh Jacobs is gone, then you're going to have to pay up to get him because everyone knows he's the number 1. So I think it's a good risk versus reward scenario there, which will transition us into your faller. Denver wide receiver Marvin Mims, going into his 2nd season, was wide receiver 89 last year. 22 catches, 33 targets, 377 yards, and a touchdown. He is wide receiver 56 on Fantasy Pros, 59 on Keep Trade Cut. He is 134 overall on Fantasy Pros and 154 overall on Keep Trade Cut. Once again, single QB, so Fantasy Pros pushes the quarterback down. That's why essentially the same range, but a 20-player overall difference. I'm going to bring up his range here to see. He is the top of tier 7 here. It's kind of, I liked Marvin Mims. The problem I find with him, he's in a range of like 20 players here. there's a lot of good rookies here that I think I would rather take a shot on. Like he's in a range. His range is with Troy Franklin, Brian Thomas Jr., Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman, Adonai Mitchell, Lad McConkey. I think I would rather take a shot on any of those guys than him. Why is he a faller for you?
Well, I'll prelude it by saying this. Marvin Mims is a guy who, along with Keaton Mitchell, Zamir White, guys on the low who I was really targeting coming into this year. Sure, there was signs on the wall, warning signs saying he might not get a starting job. He really popped off the first couple weeks of the season, and I honestly was let down. I kept riding him. I kept starting him. I thought this was going to be a guy that, as a rookie came in and hit the ground running, didn't stop. However, because of the coaching, because of they deemed he wasn't ready, they had other guys. Cortland Sutton stepped up. He was put on that back burner. I don't think rightfully so. I think this guy really did some great things. He had some small mistakes, fumbles in the return game, but he also was an All-Pro and a Pro Bowl, returner. So there's that. One thing that really I want to say about Marvin Mims is I still think, guys, if you drafted him, you're as much as you're burned, you feel a bad taste in your mouth. You still see value in this guy. He's 21 years old. He's probably going to get a chance more so this year than last year. I don't think things could get any worse for him. But a stat here I'm looking at, he had a prolific college career, right? He turned 183 targets, 123 catches into 2,400 receiving yards, which is insane. In college, he had a 67% catch rate and 13.1 yards per target. Very similar when we look at the numbers. In the NFL, he had, again, 67% catch rate, dead on, 11.4 yards per target, and 17.1 yards per reception. So those numbers just go off the chart for me. I'm really excited to see that. People really liked George Pickens when he has a high yards per reception, right? So this is kind of a not to say they're the same player, but that excitement, like they don't have to get 10 catches in a game to have value. We saw a game, I think it was week 2 versus Washington. Marvin Mims had 2 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown, right? Yeah. One catch was over, I think, 64 yards. The other was over 50. That's all you need. He had 29 in PPR. He had 29 points that week. That's all you need. This is not going to be a guy getting, 8 targets. It's not Cortland Sutton. Of course, Jerry Jeudy's there. Jeudy has 1 year left on the contract. Sutton has 2. Then you got guys that are over 30. Tim Patrick, he only has 1 year left. And then that rookie, I think it was undrafted free agent. I don't think he was a rookie, maybe second year. Brandon Johnson, he only has 1 year left. So, I mean, there's room. If you're looking ahead in redraft, this is probably not somebody who's so appealing yet. You're probably going to have to wait and see, prove it first before you pick him up, because he burned us in the community. But I really like him in Dynasty still, and I'm out there sending trades for him. Unfortunately, I haven't got him so easy. Guys still are high on him, and rightfully so. I think that's the good call. But I just think with more usage, that Marvin Mims, man, he could be a walking bomb at any given time, and I'm really intrigued on him. And I don't think he's not a faller. I still like him a lot. I'm buying low, and that's what I'm preaching to the listeners and viewers. But at the same time, no doubt his draft stock has definitely gone down. And those guys you mentioned, those rookies, if you want to take them over him, sure. I mean, especially if they go to the right landing spot, it makes sense. They're probably more volume receivers, but this is somebody who can turn 3 catches into a top 5 finish.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'd rather the rookies in his range, but I think he's more of a fall in than a faller. I think he's already falling. I still have some shares of him, and at this point, if you have him, you can't trade him. You're not going to get anything. I think there was some positive things there. Russell Wilson sucked. That whole team sucked. I think I'm still in on him at cost. Like, he's wide receiver 57. What did I say? 154 overall. I think if I look at the players, there's 20 players in this tier. I prefer the rookies over him. But other than the rookies, like, it's Treylon Burks, Michael Wilson, Brandon Cooks. So it's either guys who haven't hit or old guys like Adam Thielen, Rashad Bateman. So he's in an in-between spot where I think I'd rather have the rookies, but I'd take him over some of the older guys of the bus. So I think he's, like I said, I think he's falling. So he's getting to the point where he might be actually a decent value for me. So I don't mind him. And I was high on him too. I liked him. I don't know what happened there. They had too many receivers. Russ sucked. That whole offense sucked. So,
and let me say that too, with that point being stated, I think that's where maybe, if a manager's out there in Dynasty and they're thinking Russell Wilson, he had a bad year, Sean Payton, what a mess that is, right? Continues to be in the offseason. It doesn't look to me, if you ask me, I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be a Bronco next year. But somebody might not be on that hunch. So if they're thinking, oh, Russell Wilson's going to be back, Sean Payton's still going to be there, things aren't going to get any better for Marvin Mims, capitalize on that. If somebody has that stance, you really kind of have to know the manager to understand where they're coming from. So if you don't know the guy, you might not get that insight. But if you have that insight and somebody's burnt in their mouth, they got rubbed the wrong way, take advantage. I think this is only getting better from here from Marvin Mims.
Yeah, and that's why I'm buying him. I think Russ is gone too. All righty, that concludes 2024 Risers and Fallers. You want to take one more shot here to tell everyone where they can find you? The COVID is causing me to lose my voice, so we're going to have to let you take it.
No problem. I can co-host. So, yeah, thank you very much for having me, Aaron. Great podcast, great idea you got going here, and I'm excited to watch them all compiled together. You can find me on Twitter at JohnnyFreakinF1. You can continue to send me tweets, watch my videos, watch the shorts that come out. I will do a podcast every week with my co-host at AverageJoes_FF. So keep in touch with IDP trends. I do articles for IDP Plus. I do a lot of waiver wire during the season, and I kind of have my own Twitter where I do additional things. I always retweet if I think something can help a fantasy manager out there, not only on offense, but on defensive side of the ball too. I'm a big IDP guy too. So yeah, follow me. I'm not as big time as you, man. I'm not eclipsing 1,000 followers yet. So those guys who have questions or talk smack, I do respond to them because I have time right now. Once you get over a couple thousand, I guess you get a little.
I close my DMs. I'd have things where I'd say, "Oh, this player is trending down," and then I really found it with NFC East teams. Anytime you say anything critical of Cowboys or Eagles fans, I got one guy just, "Hey man, are you an Eagles fan?" No, I'm not. Well, shut the F up, you mother effer. I'm going, okay, that's an overreaction, but all right. So actually, I might end up getting, you do a lot of IDP. Oh, you haven't programmed your brain either. I seen you had to struggle to say IDP plus. I call it IDP guys still too. But I might get you. I've been queuing up a lot of the IDP mock drafts, and they're always harder to fill because nobody wants to do IDP. I ran one yesterday with Steve Hungarter, just me and him. So I may hit you up for that when you're available if I can.
Oh, for sure.
So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Mad Science Lab podcast, brought to you by the combination of the Fantasy Football Universe and the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I am Aaron. Thank you for joining me, and thank you to Johnny for joining me today. We'll catch you tomorrow for the next Riser and Faller edition. Thanks, guys.